6 months on my dad's, and I got to think I don't have to worry about sadness and things like that. I got to think about what God has planned, and He's through His faithfulness, through His love, He's got some great days planned for us with Him in heaven, and that's what I got to sing about and keep going. Brother Dan's going to give us our lesson.
Morning, church. I want to remind you this evening will be Teen Connections here, so kids from all over the area will be coming here to worship with us this evening, and our own Thomas Holton is going to be speaking to us this evening. He's loaded for bear. He got his hair cut this week. He is ready to go, folks. So just watch out. I mean, he's going to be preaching the word this evening. So encourage you to be here at 5 o'clock for our Teen Connection service this evening. For the past several months, I've spent quite a bit of time talking about raising our kids and dealing with our kids. And brethren, I didn't know how to title this lesson. I wrestled with what to say. I didn't want it to be hyperbole, but I wanted it to be reality. And reality kept coming back to me that they're killing our kids, because I believe they are. And we'll talk about who they is in a minute. But I think more than ever, it's vitally important that we take our role as parents and as grandparents with great, great seriousness in light of the challenge that's being presented to our children and to us as parents and grandparents in this day and age. I believe our children are facing multiple existential threats, literally like never before. I do not believe in human history kids have ever faced the multiple pressures that they do today. It's been 50 years since I was a teenager. I will guarantee you, as I was a kid growing up, I did not have to deal with a lot of this. It was a whole lot easier. And I didn't think it was easy when I was a kid growing up. But it was a whole lot easier then than it is now. I mean, we talked last week about alcohol and the ongoing threat that alcohol is to so many. Tobacco, and now vapes, and of course recently we've heard all the negative things, as we should, about the dangers of vaping. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Marijuana and its usage becoming increasingly prevalent. The problem with opioids is killing an average of 68,000 people a year in this country. Fentanyl, and if you're not familiar with what fentanyl is an artificial opioid that is 50 to 100 times as powerful as morphine. And it is being sold on the streets, it's being mixed with other drugs, and it is killing lots of our kids. Of course, there's tremendous problems with online porn and all the twisted sexuality that goes with that. The glorified violence that we see in movies and on television and in video games. The sexual predators that use the internet to seek out victims and traumatize them and use them. I ran across this stat, and I mean, it left me speechless. Here are the 5 leading causes of death in teens. Okay? Number 1 is automobile accidents. And a lot of that will have to do with impaired driving and distracted driving. Kids aren't paying attention, they're looking at their phone and they're texting or whatever, or they're impaired, okay? That's the number 1 reason our kids die, is automobile accidents. Here's what got me. I didn't realize number 2 was suicide. Our kids are killing themselves. Now you gotta ask why. And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. Number 3, our kids are killing other kids. Gang violence. That's why homicide. Number 3 in this country among our children. The number 3 leading cause of death is kids killing kids. Number 4 is drugs and alcohol. And number 5 is cancer. Here's the thing. Did you notice something? 1, 2, 3, and 4 have nothing to do with so-called natural disease, do they? You have to get down to the 5th leading cause of death, and this is the most advanced country on the face of the earth, before you find something so-called natural that's killing our kids. There have always been those who are willing to sacrifice their children for a profit. And I know that sounds harsh, but brethren, it's undeniably, absolutely true. Tobacco companies, for years, their ads targeted young people. When I was a kid, over and over and over and over again, from the Marlboro Man on, you saw ads targeting young people, convincing me, people my age, you need to smoke, you need to chew, you need to snuff, you need to do something. Why? Because that's the manly thing to do. That's a sophisticated thing to do. It was all over everywhere, and they were incredibly successful. And I want you to think about something, because we're going to talk about it again and again through this, because I think it's really important. Why do they want to target young people? Because you see, if they could get my cousin addicted to cigarettes and nicotine at 14, and he happens to live until he's 64 before emphysema and lung cancer kills him, they've got a guaranteed customer for 50 years. Understand that? A guaranteed customer base who are going to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because they're addicted to their product. Don't kid yourselves. That's exactly what they're out to do. Vaping retailers. Recently, you've seen all kinds of ads all over television, and rightfully so, and thank God for them, warning about the dangers of vaping, the fact that vaping is killing our young people. What's at the core of vaping? Nicotine. Nicotine. It was marketed as just another way, safe way to consume nicotine, because nicotine is addictive. And since tobacco is getting all these negative connotations to it, and rightfully so, let's sell it another way. Let's sell it in terms of vaping. And one of the things that I appreciate that's been a public service and opened the eyes, I hope, of a lot of people, is they've talked about, listen, when they start putting out bubblegum flavored vapes, and they start putting out apple flavored and cherry flavored and Coke flavored vapes, who are they kidding? Who are they marketing to? They're marketing to adults, not with bubble gum and candy. They're marketing to kids. Unabashedly marketing to kids. And that's one of the reasons why they've shut them down, trying to do that. Why? Once again, man, if I can hook you at 14 and keep you hooked till you're dead, I'm going to make a ton of money off of you. And I am. How about these cannabis outlets? Cannabis, the fancy word for marijuana. In Colorado, they have got all kinds of problems up there with children consuming edibles and ODing and being taken to the hospital. Why? Because a lot of the cannabis, the edible cannabis that they're marketing for gummy bears. Gummy bears? Really? For adults? Candy? Chocolates? For adults? Really? Lacing them with THC and putting them out there, and kids are eating them. To the point that just recently in Colorado, they have now required that if you put THC in a product, if you flavor a food with THC or put THC in there, that you have to put on the package in big letters that it's got THC in it. That is the addictive compound in marijuana, okay? That's what produces the high or the calm or whatever people want to call it. Why again are they making edibles for kids? Because if they've got you hooked, they've got a customer for life. And they're going to make a ton of money off of you. By the way, don't expect the marijuana lobby to tell you the truth about their drug, because they're not going to. I was reading stuff, researching, and looking at some of the self-serving stuff that's out there about marijuana. It's just flat lies. They're just flat lying. But why wouldn't they? Because they've got a product that they want to sell. They've got a market that they want to penetrate. They've got people that they want to hook, because if they've got you, they've got you. THC again. That is the addictive component in marijuana. The THC content of marijuana has gone up from an average of 2% in the 90s to as high as 28% in a strain known as, and I thought this was interesting, Girl Scout cookie. Apparently you can go into a cannabis outlet and order Girl Scout cookie. Now, isn't that a weird name to name a strain of marijuana? What do you suppose that is? And oh, by the way, 14 times the concentration of the addictive factor in marijuana now versus 30 years ago. 14 times. That's like talking about 5% beer and 70% alcohol. That's the difference. Huge. And there is a direct connection between the potency of THC and addiction. The more potent the THC in marijuana, the better possibility that whoever's using it is going to become addicted to it. 1 in 11 users of marijuana, 9%, and that stat will show up again and again, 9% of those who use will become addicts. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. I haven't seen exact numbers of how many kids, you see various estimates of how many kids have used marijuana. But let's say it's 20 million who have used it. And 1 in 9, or 1 in 11, of those, 9%, will become addicted. There's approximately 2 million chronic buyers of the drug who over the years are going to spend an untold amount of money to support their habit. Don't tell me it's not cold-blooded marketing designed on the backs of your kids in mind to build a guaranteed profit for years to come. And who's talking about that? Who's sharing it? Who's talking about the fact that 1 in 9 of our kids who use will become, 1 in 11 of our kids who use will become addicted? Do you know this? Have you ever seen this figure? It's scientifically established. Studies have shown it. The average loss of IQ points by a daily smoker is 8. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with IQ, but the average IQ is theoretically 100, okay? And like 90-some-odd% of the population varies on either side of that by 20 points. So the average IQ ranges between 80 and 120, all right? For the vast majority of people. There are a few more that have higher IQs than that, a few more who have lower IQs than that. Now, if you've got an IQ of 120, studies say you're probably going to do okay in college. You'll probably do very well. But if you drop that IQ to 112, instead of A's, you're probably going to get some B's along the way. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to stop you from advancing. But listen to me. If you're one of the several 100,000 people in this country of an IQ of 90 and can function and hold a job, but you start using and you drop your IQ by 8 points, you have dropped below the level where you can be trained to do a lot of things. You have probably placed yourself among the chronically unemployed. You will probably require that the rest of us support you because you're not going to be able to function at a level necessary to pay your way. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it's not being talked about. It's not being discussed. Most people don't know. If you start using marijuana when you're 14, 15, 16 years old, you become a daily user of it, do you realize it stunts your growth emotionally? That at 24, if you're still using, you're still going to be 14 emotionally? You're not going to grow. You're not going to develop. It stunts that emotional development. By the way, there's been a study that was completed in the United Kingdom that found that daily users of marijuana and chronic users, and chronic becomes when somebody's smoking marijuana up to 5 times a day, that kind of usage of marijuana increases the chance of psychosis in an individual 3 times. 3 times a possibility that if you're tending toward being psychotic, you will become psychotic. Now, I don't know about you, but that scares me to death, because we do not need psychotic people wandering the streets. And we certainly don't need to be marketing a drug that's going to increase the risk of psychosis and of the dangerous psychotic behavior that goes with that. Our children are taking their own lives in record numbers. I pointed out to you earlier, the second leading cause of death in people ages 10 to 24 is them taking their own life. In the most prosperous, technologically advanced country on the face of this earth, that's the number 2 leading cause of death. Our kids are killing themselves. Statistically, each day, over 3,000 9th through 12th graders will attempt suicide. Today, in this country, on average, 3,000 kids will attempt to take their own lives. In 2017, a study of high school students showed 17.2% had considered suicide. And of that 17.2%, 7.4% of those did commit suicide. How sick is our society when every 6th kid, high school kid you see, and actually this covers 9th through 12th graders. That's what the study covered. Every 6th child you see in grades 9 through 12 has considered during the year sometime taking their own life. Brethren, we owe our children good news, not the garbage, the dismal lies that they're being fed today. Our children are being brainwashed with a diet of helplessness and hopelessness. I'm sorry, but this hyperbole that's being spewed out there that this earth is going to be gone in 12 years is nonsense. No reputable scientists agree with that. Argue global warming or whatever. This earth is not going to disappear in 12 years, and yet that is what is being spewed out there for whatever the reason. And our kids are hearing it, and a kid's absorbing it, and kids believing it. Why try? Why push? I'm going to be dead by the time I'm 20. What are kids being taught in science classes all over this country? They're being taught, oh, you're just a variation of animal life. A just more highly evolved form of a fortuitous accident that occurred billions of years ago. You're just stardust in the wind. You're here for a while and then you're gone, and that's that. And there's no more significance to your life than there is to that of a tree frog or a dog. Wow. That gives me a real sense of value. That really is going to make you feel good about yourself, isn't it? And yet that's what's being pounded into their heads constantly and consistently. That you're just an animal, and they're not. They're not. It's a lie from the devil. They're not just an animal. They're a precious spirit created in the image of God, inhabiting a body on this earth temporarily, and they are not just an animal. Much of the abuse of alcohol and other drugs can be attributed to children self-medicating their misery. There is no question, study after study shows, that so much of the chronic abuse of alcohol, marijuana, meth, all these other drugs in this country is directly tied to kids treating themselves because they're so depressed, so frustrated, so angry, so upset, so living what they see as pointless lives. They're looking for some way to escape. Not get high, escape. Ease the pain. Stop the hurting. And so they're turning to these drugs which are destroying their lives to trade off, maybe I won't hurt for a little while, or at least I'll hurt less. Brethren, there are trillions of dollars to be made by turning our children into miserable, drug-dependent adults. And don't kid yourselves. And that is exactly what's happening. Again, if I can hook you on alcohol, if I can hook you on nicotine, if I can hook you on marijuana, if I can hook you on meth, if I can hook you on coke, if I can hook you on heroin, I have got a customer, unfortunately, probably in most cases for life, however short that life might be. And there's going to be a lot of money that I'm going to make off your misery and the misery that's afflicted in the lives of others because of your addiction. They are killing our kids. And I'm begging you, don't let them. Don't let them. If there is a bulwark, if there is a wall that is here to protect your children, it's you, parents. It's you, grandparents. You've got a sacred, God-given duty to protect your children and to teach them and show them a better way. Our children need to hear, you have a God who loves you. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. You have a God who loves you. You are not just a piece of dirt. You are not just something who's here today and gone tomorrow and the universe doesn't care. It doesn't make any difference. That is not the case. And our children need to hear, you're created by a God who loves you, who cares about you, who sent his Son to die for you, who wants you to be in his family, who wants you to be with him in eternity. They need to hear that. There's tremendous value in that. They need to hear your life can have a noble meaning and purpose. You can press on toward the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. You can be salt and light. You can and should and will make a difference in this world in a positive way. If you live your life as a child of God, you can make such a difference today in the lives of so many. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139 verse 14. Brethren, we are not biological accidents. We are incredibly complicated, highly sophisticated biological mechanisms who can do amazing, amazing things. Your body can heal itself in so many ways. Look at the way God has designed for your body to protect itself, heal itself. I liken our bodies in some ways to a Formula racer's engine. That engine can run at 9,000, 10,000 RPM. Unbelievable speeds. and run that way for hours because it's finely tuned and finely balanced. And it's got just the right fuel and everything to make that engine function perfectly. And it's real easy to blow that engine. Mess with the fuel a little bit, let something get just a little out of kilter with it, and that engine will fly apart. Now, it'll run magnificently until you mess with it. You're the same way. Our bodies are incredibly resilient. They're also incredibly delicate. And you start shooting drugs into this body, you start ingesting artificial things into this body, and you're going to mess with this fine-tuned engine. And you're going to mess it up. It's going to burn up. It's not going to function right. It's going to die. It's that simple. And that's why we're going to be told again and again, your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. You have an incredible gift from God. Steve Parker's talked about this over and over again, and rightfully so, that we are indwelt by the Spirit of God, that He dwells in us. Your body is a sanctuary. It's a sanctuary for God. Our kids need to hear this and understand your body's not your own. You've been bought at a price. God has chosen to take up His dwelling in you. You have a sacred, holy responsibility to keep that body pure because of the honor that's been given to you. And you see, when the world's out there saying, use this body any way you want, pollute it any way you want, hook up with whoever you want, it doesn't make any difference, it's all just fine. That is a lie from the devil himself, from the heart of hell. And the truth of the matter is that is not why God designed you, that is not what God intends for you, and if you honor Him, He'll honor your honoring Him. He'll bless you. I have no doubt in my mind about it. He'll bless you. And we need to tell our children that another life awaits us after this one. A life that will be glorious beyond comprehension. When we die, I like to put it this way, and talked about this in a Connect group a couple of weeks ago. I view it as getting an upgrade. I may be flying coach now. When I die, I get to go first class. When I die, I get to go to a resort unlike anything anybody's ever seen. And they can argue Atlantis and Caicos Islands and sandals and whatever they want. Ain't no place going to be able on this earth to compare with where we're going to get to go. And what we're going to get to enjoy and what we're going to get to see. Just read Revelation 21 and 22. God has a beautiful, beautiful life prepared for you following this life. Okay, He wants you to enjoy that upgrade. He wants you to be a part of that. That's why He sent His Son. And so, brethren, I'm begging you. I really am. Pay attention to your kids. Put your kids ahead of yourself. Think about the eternal implications in the decisions that you make about the priorities in your life. What really matters? What really matters? And set your priorities according to what really matters. And protect your children, and guard your children, and teach your children, and prepare your children for this life, and give them the opportunity, the blessing to make a difference in this world. Not because their life is another one that in some cases literally has been thrown in a trash can somewhere, but because their life is a light in darkness. A light that's making a difference in the lives of others. That's what we're called to be. And that's what we can do if we'll shoulder this sacred duty and do what we can to prepare our children for a challenging, difficult life, but a life that can make such a difference in the lives of others, and a life that can stretch into eternity. If you need our prayers this morning, if you're ready to give your life to the Lord as you're baptized into Christ, we can help you in any way. Please come while we stand and while we sing.
Softly and